My name is Sierra and I am 24 years old. After my father's funeral, while the scent of Lilith still clung to my black dress and the last condolences echoed in my ears, my stepmother drove me to a remote road just outside town. The kind of empty stretch where the wind moves just like restless spirits and no one asks questions. She didn't speak during the drive. Her manicured fingers were tight around the steering wheel, her diamond bracelet catching the fading sunlight like a quiet celebration. I remember staring at the passing fields, numb from grief, believing we were heading home to face the silence together. Instead, she slowed the car, stopped beside a crooked wooden sign, and turned to me with a smile so cold it burned. "This is where you get off. The house and business are mine now." For a second, I thought I had misheard her. That grief had twisted my senses. But she leaned across me, opened the passenger door, and repeated it slower, sharper, making sure every word cut deep. I stepped out because shock has a strange way of making obedience feel automatic. My shoes sank slightly into the gravel. I stood in the dust, clutching my bag, as she drove away without looking back. No phone, no money. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. I was free. But she had no idea what my father had left me before he died. The wind whipped my hair across my face as her car disappeared beyond the bend. And the reality of what she had done settled over me like the darkening sky. She thought she had erased me. In her mind, I was the inconvenient daughter from a first marriage. The quiet girl who helped in the office, but never argued, never demanded, never fought back. She had always underestimated silence. At the funeral, she cried the loudest, held people the longest, accepted sympathy like it was applause. Everyone believed she was the grieving widow. No one saw how quickly she had changed the locks. The night my father was admitted to the hospital, no one noticed how she insisted on handling the paperwork alone, but I had noticed. I noticed everything. A truck roared past on the distant highway, snapping me back to the present. My father's voice echoed in my memory, calm and steady, telling me years ago that strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it watches. The day before he passed, when machines beat steadily around his hospital bed, he squeezed my hand with surprising force and told me to trust him. He said he had handled everything. At the time, I thought he meant emotionally, that he wanted me to be strong after he was gone. Standing there on that empty road, abandoned and humiliated, I finally understood. There had been more behind his eyes, something deliberate, something prepared. My stepmother believed the house was hers because her name was on the recent renovation permits. She believed the business was hers because she had been managing the accounts for the past year. She believed I was powerless because she had taken my phone from my purse before we left the cemetery, claiming she needed to make calls. What she didn't know was that my father had taught me the business from the ground up since I was 16. I knew every supplier, every client. Every weakness in our competitors. I knew which contracts were about to renew and which partnerships depended on personal loyalty rather than signatures. As twilight deepened, I felt the first spark of something stronger than grief. Clarity. She had chosen a remote road because she wanted me isolated, afraid, dependent. Instead, she had given me distance from her performance, from the suffocating walls of that house that no longer felt like home. The dust settled around my feet, and with it, my fear. I adjusted the strap of my bag on my shoulder and began walking toward the highway. Each step steady despite the ache in my chest. She thought abandonment would break me. She thought claiming the house and business would secure her victory. But my father had never been careless, especially not with me. The sky above turned a deep violet, and I felt something unexpected rising inside me. Not despair. Anticipation. She believed she had left me with nothing on a forgotten road. What she had really done was set the stage for the biggest mistake of her life. By the time I reached the highway, I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't crying. I was thinking. A passing driver eventually slowed when he saw me walking alone in funeral black. I told him my car had broken down near town. He offered me a ride to the nearest gas station. I thanked him, memorizing his license plate out of habit. Another lesson my father had drilled into me: always stay aware at the station. I didn't call my stepmother. I didn't call a friend. I walked straight to the small ATM mounted beside the soda machine. I entered a sequence of numbers that had been etched into my memory since childhood. The screen blinked once, then displayed a balance that made the cashier glance up at me twice. My father hadn't just handled everything. He had transferred the controlling shares of the company into a trust under my name 6 months ago. Not hers. Mine. The business she thought she owned legally, strategically, and financially answered to me. The house she claimed had been refinanced under the company as a corporate asset tied to executive authority. Executive authority that, as of 48 hours ago, belonged solely to me. My father had known exactly who he married. He had known her appetite for control, and he had prepared quietly. I withdrew enough cash to get through the night and called the one person she would never suspect, Mr. Alvarez, our senior legal advisor who had worked with my father for 22 years. He answered on the second ring as if he had been expecting me when I told him what she had done. There was no surprise in his voice, only a calm confirmation. It's time. The next morning, while she was probably redecorating the living room and rehearsing her role as grieving owner, I was sitting in a downtown office reviewing documents with 3 attorneys. The trust was airtight. The shares were irreversible. And there was one more detail my father had kept from everyone except me. A clause requiring a formal board meeting within 72 hours of his death to confirm leadership succession. She had been too busy throwing me away to notice the clock ticking. By noon, official notices had been delivered to the company headquarters, signed by me. At 3 in the afternoon, I walked into the building she believed she controlled. Conversation stopped. Employees stared. Not because I looked broken, but because I looked certain. She stepped out of my father's office when she heard the silence shift for a split second. Confusion crossed her face. Then anger. What are you doing here? She demanded. I met her eyes calmly and took my seat. The board members were already assembled in the conference room. Mr. Alvarez began the meeting with quiet precision. Documents were placed in front of her one by one. Share distribution. Trust activation. Executive transfer of power. Her name appeared nowhere that mattered. The color drained from her face as realization replaced arrogance. That's impossible, she whispered, but it was and single quotes T. Within 40 minutes. The vote was formal and unanimous. I was appointed CEO. Effective immediately. Her managerial access was revoked. Her company cards were deactivated before she even left the building. Security escorted her to collect her personal belongings. The same security team she had once instructed to monitor me. As she passed me in the hallway, she tried one last time. You think you've won? She hissed. I looked at her, steady and unshaken. Double quotes. No, my father did. That evening, I returned to the house she had claimed as hers, legally. It was company property. My property. The locks she had changed were replaced again, this time with my authorization. Her suitcases were placed neatly by the door. I didn't abandon her on a remote road. I simply handed her the reality she tried to hand me. Actions have echoes. She left without another word. And for the first time since my father's death, the house felt quiet in a different way. Not empty. Restored. I walked into my father's office and sat in his chair, not as a grieving daughter, but as the woman he had prepared me to become. After my father's funeral, she thought she erased me. She thought I stood alone in the dust with nothing. No phone. No money. But she had no idea what my father had left me before he died. He left me power. He left me protection. He left me proof. And most importantly, he left me belief in myself.